actually one of the most important wrestling cities, Glasgow, in the whole of the world, is like a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
For women's wrestling, it's very important because I think it's one of the strongest women's rosters in the country.
Catch it on TV, catches your eye. I was about 7, 8 years old first time I seen it, and it's just kind of never left my life.
You come back and there's little kids like made signs specifically for you, like that, man, that stuff gets you.
Scotland, a place full of culture and beautiful scenery. There are many things that make this country so admired by those who visit. From countryside adventures to our leather and city pubs, Scotland is full of personality and passion. However, there's one aspect of this country that many people can't live without. Sports have such an important impact on this country. Whether you're walking through hidden villages or a major city, sport is always a topic for conversation. Sport is so historic in Scotland, with famous achievements such as the Lisbon Lions and Andy Murray winning Wimbledon claiming the main headlines. However, with the likes of football and rugby being the most followed, many other industries don't get the same recognition due to the lack of publicity. One example of this is professional wrestling.
So Scottish wrestling, it had its turgid times of like most people go down to England, and it's mostly touring companies that would come up. So your Brian Dixons and your Mega Slabs, your All Star, they would come up and do the camps and all that kind of thing.
Although professional wrestling is immensely popular, with the WWE dominating the sports entertainment world, we don't get to see the real potential that Scotland has to offer due to the success of companies across the Atlantic. This provides difficulty for those who want to make it on the grandest stage. However, we are now starting to see a new era of Scottish talent breaking through, and that is down to one man, Drew McIntyre.
If we're talking about how the boom happened, I would say Drew being fired from WWE and just taking Scottish wrestling, independent wrestling, by the scruff of the neck and going, right, I'm gonna make sure that my star doesn't dim. I'm gonna grab all yous and make you stars at the same time. If you're building a wrestling superstar, that's what Drew looks like, and he comes from Scotland, which is incredible. And the fact that our little country has so many wrestlers in WWE right now is testament to how powerful and how incredible the people gravitate towards Scottish wrestlers.
In terms of like the journey, like you respect people like Drew, obviously in Scotland is a legend. Like he's the best. Everyone should be looking up to him because for a long time it was just Drew, nobody else, and then all of a sudden all these guys get signed at the same time. And even now, if you look at like NXT, even though like NXT UK is closed down, you look at like NXT in Orlando, and there's like 5 guys who are Scottish in there, so it's still a huge sense of community.
Fortunately, I've had the good fortune of wrestling Drew when he was over here back in 2015. I mean, if you look at them, even guys like Kaylee Ray as well, Isla Dawn, Roland Wolfgang, the Coffees, all these guys. Obviously, Drew was the first one to do it and really break out and show people that it's possible to go from a wee town in Scotland to get to the top of the biggest company in the world. So, like, these guys are obviously a big inspiration.
McIntyre has led the pathway for the next generation of Scottish talent, with individuals such as Joe Hendry, Piper Niven, and Nikki Cross being a part of some of the world's biggest companies. But one thing they all share in common is how they first started. To advance as a wrestler, many people were attending classes in order to kickstart their journey. We find ourselves at Adria Leisure Centre, where Pro Wrestling Scotland hosts classes for current and upcoming wrestlers to train and improve their skills.
So we're here on a Saturday from 1 o'clock until about 3:30, 4 o'clock. All age groups welcome. We kind of recommend a 12 to start, just so the magic is still alive for the younger kids. But we take kind of any age. Well, coaches are all disclosure Scotland check, so we do take younger than that.
The wrestling industry is a tough environment, with vigorous and intense training schedules taking place. It helps those taking part to really understand how difficult wrestling is and the amount of dedication one must have to succeed at the highest level. However, with efficient and well-run coaching, there is a sense of enjoyment in these classes, and that comes down to the passion that many of those involved have for professional wrestling.
Learning the basics first, mate. So you'll see today when you've been, there's loads and loads of different levels from very beginner to the start. So it's all about patience, and I'm a qualified personal trainer as well. So I help the guys with nutritional advice, help them with some gym advice and that as well. So there's loads of support. And then today we've got a few of the older students in today, Krieger and Daz Black. They kind of started with ourselves.
It's good to see, obviously, as much as it maybe doesn't look like much, just a bunch of crash mats essentially in a gym hall. But the people that have came through and then wrestling all over the country and all over Europe, these sort of classes are vital. I think the grassroots level is really the lifeblood of the Scottish scene. I would argue the lifeblood of the scene across the world. Without these sort of classes, I mean, you see this class today, there's young kids here that come enjoy it, but then hopefully eventually, if they choose to, they can see that something they're passionate about can potentially lead into a career for them.
It's really rewarding, like coming back. This is literally the exact place that I actually started training when I was 11, so 12 years ago, over half my life. Moved to a different gym after this, and then went to another school after that, but Barhead also for PBW. But yeah, this is like where it all started. You only get as much out of it as you put in, there is really no excuses. Like I said, I would travel up every single week from England for it. So it just depends how much you want it. Like if you really want it and if you want to improve, then you'll do it. And I think a lot of people get discouraged by if their progress gets halted, but again, everyone's here to learn, and you're not going to progress without learning. So it's very, very important.
There's all manner of means for you to be a wrestler. So it shouldn't hold you back going, oh, I'll never make it to WWE. You might not have to. You might not want to be. You might just want to be a wrestler, do it. It's fun, blow off some steam, keep your fitness up. There's so many reasons to do it.
For wrestlers starting out, it can be quite a stressful time as they try to learn the ropes of the industry and improve on their in-ring ability. However, with help from current wrestlers, it makes situations like this so much more relaxed, as it gives people a lot of assurance that they can do it. Hearing stories from current wrestlers on their experiences and how they managed to overcome them has been so useful for those taking part.
Having a good support system is so important. But as well as that, like, again, I think it all just comes back to how much you want it. So some people's situations are a lot better. Some people are really fortunate to have parents like my dad that would drive me up, like really, really, really supportive, and my mum. But some people's parents aren't that supportive. But again, it comes back to that drive. Like if that is what you really, really want, then you'll make it work. As long as you have the passion inside you, that's all that really matters.
You look at who we've trained over the years, guys that went to WWE, Noah and Kaylee that are there just now, Daz, Krieger, Angel Hayes, guys that have done Kenny Williams, guys that have done NXT UK and going to go on, hopefully to go into to other things. Wrestling's kind of a niche thing, but it's very, very big, obviously, in America, and when the WWE and that come over here, it's very, very popular. So people don't really understand the independent scene as much. They think, oh, they just started in WWE and that's how they got there. But a lot of people start at this kind of a grassroots level and then build themselves up.
You do get a lot of support. I think initially everyone's very supportive when it's a hobby. They're like, yeah, chase it. I think once you try and make a career of it, it can be more difficult for some people because, like I said, there is no clear pathway, or there was no clear pathway when I started. I think nowadays, with obviously the success of Drew McIntyre and so many other Scottish wrestlers that are on the highest stage now, it's obviously a lot easier for people to understand that there is that opportunity there.
Following on from their classes at Airdrie Leisure Centre, Pro Wrestling Scotland put their talent to the test as they held a show for the local community to come out and watch. Held at the Knights of St Columba Social Club in Moodiesburn, a lot of preparation is required for these shows, with Pro Wrestling Scotland hope they can put on an entertaining night for those in attendance. With a card filled with all types of matches, the arriving crowd were not to be disappointed.
So there's a lot of stuff goes into it. Obviously, the guys are in here training, so we've got 6 guys in here today that are still trainees that are on the show tonight, and then some in Moodiesburn as well as the more established guys. And then, like, obviously, there's a lot of promoting goes on, door-to-door stuff, out talking to people, canvassing, getting posters up, getting stuff online. Just it's a hard graft to get the word out there, but it's worth it in the end when you see hopefully you see a show down the line, you'll see the progress.
With the in-ring action kicking off, the crowd start to get involved as they cheer for their favourite wrestlers. The event aims to bring joy and fun to many families, highlighting one of the many reasons people get involved in professional wrestling. Putting a smile on a child's face is one of the many pleasures in a wrestler's career, as it lets them know that all their hard work is finally paying off.
One of the kind of things we do is make memories. Like if you watch your kids when the good guys are out and they're high fiving the kids, they go mental for it. So that's kind of something great for the adults to see the kids enjoying it that much, and then great for the kids, and then hopefully that goes on for generations and generations where they're kind of building up, and it just creates memories, mate, which last a lifetime, don't they?
Definitely, like being able to just put smiles on kids' faces and let them enjoy themselves and just letting them experience that sort of sense of false reality where they can enjoy themselves rather than sitting in the house and doing nothing on a weekend. So it's very rewarding.
Mate, that is honestly all. Everything. It's the reason we do it, man. Because you can relate to it. When I was that age, I used to look at people like Kenny Williams, people like that, and then even stuff like that. Like you can come to different shows, maybe you haven't been there in a year, and you come back and there's little kids like made signs specifically for you, like that. Man, that stuff gets you. And obviously at the end when you do the signings and the autographs and little kids come up to you saying that you're their hero and stuff like that, man. Like there's no feeling like that.
That's what we all thrive on. We're all hooked to that rush that you get, the adrenaline buzz you get from getting a reaction from the crowd, especially on the most family shows, because it's the kids. I remember what it was like when I was that age and I was going and I was enjoying shows. So to try and give that back to some kids that come to shows, it's a great feeling.
I enjoy it, especially when you hear the reaction. It's brilliant, man. It's just brilliant. Builds your confidence and everything. It's great, man.
The fact that you can go to any of these shows now and potentially see the next WWE superstar, the next AEW superstar, there's potential for that now. My first ever wrestling show, my first independent show, was 2012. I went to go see it because Roddy Piper was on that show. And then I saw Roddy Piper, I saw the rest of the show, and then I went down the next show because I wanted to see more of the wrestlers that were on that show, as well as the potential of a future superstar. That first show I saw, Nikki Cross was on that show. Emerson James was on that show, who's doing amazing work in Europe as well as the UK and the likes. It's just the potential. You're going to enjoy some wrestling, but the fact that we can look back 10 years later and go, I saw so-and-so before they became a megastar, before they headlined WrestleMania. That's an added bonus of excitement going to these shows.
These events are such a massive help to the local community, as it brings people from all walks of life to celebrate a passion they all care about. It also helps reinforce the enthusiasm Scotland has for professional wrestling as they support their local wrestling clubs. From the crowd to the ring, the event shows the true importance of professional wrestling in this country.
It's always a good crowd in Moodiesburn. Honestly, the crowd are always loud. The show is fantastic here. It was one of my favourites to end the year. Stuff like this is important everywhere. Like especially these smaller towns that don't get much mainstream entertainment attention. These smaller towns bringing an entire town out to watch one show. You seen the reaction today for this entire crowd. They loved it. So and shows like this literally build up to a bigger size Scottish wrestling scene. So shows like this are important all across the board.
It's brilliant. There's some crowd in here, especially with the bar and that. It's brilliant. There's some atmosphere. They bring a whole community together. You know what I mean? Aye. They help every day. The younger guys get on the shows and that and build experience. It's really good.
The atmosphere it creates is loud, and it's just they just want to be entertained and want to see some wrestling. They want to do the oohs and the ahs, and there's no judgment in that space. You get to shout, you get to drink, you get to just be a fan and be that child just wanting to enjoy. You get to cheer for the superheroes, the good guys. You get to boo the bad guys. In the Scottish fans, whether it's football, whether it's rugby, whether it's wrestling, they're just famous for being just loud, proud, just fans of things, and I think that's what gravitates for American audiences, for worldwide audiences, is seeing that proud nation just roaring for their favourites, for the their hometown heroes as well. It just makes you proud watching a Scottish fan base just go bananas.
Thanks for joining us. We hope you had a good time. Get home safe and have a wonderful Christmas. Good night.
With endless hours of training and matches under their belts, now is the time for wrestlers to really stand out, and there is no other place to do this than arguably the UK's leading wrestling promotion. Insane Championship Wrestling, most commonly known as ICW, has been a mainstay in the Scottish wrestling scene for just under 2 decades, with wrestlers from all across the world being able to have the opportunity to perform at this prestigious company. By hosting large crowds and excelling in production value, there is no doubt as to why people want to play a part here.
It's such a good opportunity, like being able to come through the asylum and then having this at your fingertips. Even before ICW, we've got our other things, like you've got your £5 wrestlers, which is the street showcases at the GPWA, Blockbuster Pro Wrestling and all that. And we've got all these screens that you can see behind us. It's just an amazing production team. It's just amazing the opportunities they can provide for us.
It's night and day compared to what else goes on in this country. Like, this is the biggest production you can see with the screens. Like no other shows, you get commentators, ring announcers as good as Simon, referees as good as Thomas and Carson. Production, like we've got, even on the screen and behind the screen, like the support of everybody it's a lot.
Wrestling's something I've been doing for 17 years now. It's something I take a lot of pride in, and to be able to say that I do it at a high level and that I'm able to do it alongside the best of the best is something that I take a lot of pride in.
As well as the entertainment in the ring, some of ICW's success comes from behind the scenes. From calling the shots at ringside, the commentary team of Billy Kirkwood and Ryan Fitzsimons helps provide an entertainment spectacle for those watching from home. The pure raw emotion they both show in commentary highlights not only their passion for the sport, but also their dedication to their work for ICW. Commentating over some of the most memorable moments at the company, their voices are ingrained in the Scottish wrestling scene.
I sometimes have to pinch myself, like really, because being a wrestling fan and getting to be on commentary and what have you, and watch these guys do this, it's just fantastic. Like I say, I couldn't be proud. I've been through a couple of generations now of like rosters, if you like, and to just see the guys, it really makes me proud. It really makes me proud. I love it.
It's nuts for me because I was on the other side of the curtain for shows like Fear and Loathing at the Hydro and get shows at the O2 Academy and stuff like that. I was a fan, so being on the other side and doing something I used to watch Billy open the shows from the balcony of arenas, so actually being in the ring for the opening of the show is a really weird but amazing experience. So I remember the first night, just the pride I felt being like, wow, I'm part of ICW. I mean, this is a company that is renowned over the world. So our job is to make these guys look better than they already are.
Yeah,
like, we try to tell their story.
That's it. Our job is we are helping tell their stories. We're just following their lead. And the guys here make it really easy for us.
ICW are very supportive of their roster's progress and trying to make them the best they can be. The company have especially done a lot for women's wrestling, with ICW's Square Go event marking history when Rio became the first ever female winner of the match. This achievement just shows how much ICW is so important for the success of women's wrestling as they continue to break down barriers in the sport.
I don't really realise until like other people say to me like, you know, oh, you're wrestling at ICW this weekend, and it's nice sometimes to like think like this is actually really cool, and it's like one of the main companies, like we were saying, that like in Europe and in the UK that people will watch, like when you're training, you'll watch ICW because it's like one of the ones that everybody ends up going to work for when they start making a name for themselves. Personally, I think it's one of the strongest women's rosters in the country. So I think it's like very important, especially for women, to be shown on like a platform like ICW in such like a good light as well.
You know, when a bigger company actually wants to book you and stuff, like,
yeah,
it means you're not awful. So it's like nice to like people trust you. Do you know what I mean? Especially like for women's wrestlers, obviously there's maybe 1 or 2 matches on the show, so knowing that you're like one of the guys,
yeah,
or
to
one of
get
the girls
like
that's on
picked.
it, then I'm like,
Yeah.
must be doing all right. Other place in the country might not know about some of the other Scottish shows, but like everyone knows about this one. Do you know what I mean? Everyone knows what ICW is, and like obviously with the big like social media, like following and things like that, like more people are gonna see it. So it's like the main guy, really, isn't it?
The Glasgow-based company has also been at the helping hand of advancing many wrestlers' careers, with some being able to showcase their skills at the WWE. The WWE is the target for many aspiring wrestlers, and so for ICW to have many of their talent appear in the biggest company in the world reinforces the work they have done for Scottish wrestling.
WWE is the ultimate goal for anybody who steps into a wrestling ring. Like, most folk grew up on it, and that's the aspiration. So, I mean, I got to live a dream of mine and work with some of my idols and get advice and feedback. There's nothing that beats an ICW crowd. Like, this was the mecca of British wrestling, regardless of who you ask. This place was where it was at for the last 10 years. The fact that you can look at Scottish wrestling and say that, like, this was one of the most important wrestling cities, Glasgow, in the whole of the world, is like a pretty cool thing to be a part of.
We're in a situation where ICW has invested so much, whether it comes to production, when it comes to like even the rings, everything else. So it's like they have put such an effort into being the most professional brand that it's like, I remember when it first started, it was in a place in Maryhill. The ring was rented. There was no entranceway, things like that. Now they've got all their LED boards. They've got their own cameras, their own sound equipment, their own lighting equipment. In terms of for the future, like we need a place, a platform for people coming through to learn how to work in a television setting in front of the cameras, for us to have a continued success worldwide. And ICW is pretty much the only platform that can offer that kind of thing. And it's definitely leading the way, especially in Scottish wrestling.
ICW has been a shining light for the Scottish wrestling industry, as it helps highlight the abilities of so many wrestlers and the energy the Scottish crowds have for the sport. The importance of this company has been so vital that without it, Scotland might never have had the representation it deserves in the wrestling world. You can sense the enthusiasm from those who work at ICW as they discuss how significant a part the company has played in their lives.
To me, it's like you said, the leading promotion. Like, if you wrestle in this country and your goal isn't to be here, then I kind of question that a little bit, because this is the highest level it gets here, and I think we do it pretty well. Everybody that's here deserves to be here. Everybody that's here that works hard enough to be here. It's extremely important to this country, wrestling wise. It'd be lost without it.
I mean, I think if you speak to any Scottish wrestler, whether it's somebody who's on their first match or if it's Drew McIntyre, who's arguably the most famous Scottish wrestler of all time, they'll tell you how important ICW is, how important it's been to paving the way of where they are now. You know, independent companies around the world are so important, but I feel like, I mean, you'll know more than me for being here long enough how important this one is.
Oh, it's so important. Like the production values, the way things are run. It's like, in the UK, there's not many companies that run a production like ICW. They can put on a show like no other. Like, and it's not like indie wrestling. Like, indie wrestling, you go and it's a gym hall and there's a curtain and everybody makes their entrance through it. Like, here we've got LED screens, HD cameras, commentators. It live streams around the world. Like, it's the top tier of what indie wrestling could be. And the fact that it's still part of like it's still going after all these years is like, it's so important, and it's great.
I'd say ICW is extremely important for all of Scottish wrestling. You know, like in so many ways, for such a long time, they've really been industry leaders. And I think not only is that good for ICW, its own product, I think it has a trickle out effect to all the other promotions, not just in Scotland but UK and Europe.
This is the gold standard for me. I mean, you think of the talents that have gone straight from here to like WWE to WrestleMania, come back through here. For me, this is the gold standard. I think it's incredibly important and it's amazing. And there isn't a wrestler in the country that isn't trying to get into an ICW ring. And I know that from working in England. I know that from working in other places. They all want to come here, so it's hugely important. And long may it continue. That this is the starting point of greatness for so many people.
With promotions such as Pro Wrestling Scotland and ICW succeeding with their training schools and events, one question is still to be answered. What does the future hold for the Scottish wrestling scene?
Genuinely think there's another boom period coming, and I don't know how. I think it's off the back of Joe Hendry. Like we saw, the last boom was really, it was getting there, but really it exploded because of Drew. So when Drew came back in 2014, that's when it properly went, oh, there's wrestling in this country. We need to go to a show as soon as possible. I think 2025, we're going to maybe not Hydro numbers again, but certainly not impossible to see some of these promotions in bigger venues and put in a lot of bums in the seats at the same time.
Amazing. Make sure to visit the merch stand on the way out, and we will see you next time.
Feeling like that.
And finally, how much does wrestling mean to you?
Everything. Mate, eat, sleep, breathe it. I know it's cliche, but it's true, man. Since I was, even before I started training, since I was a kid, the moment I saw that first match, I was like, that's what I'm going to do. Like, no matter how many setbacks, no matter how many people said you couldn't do it at school, how many teachers were like, that's stupid, it's a pipe dream and that. I was like, it doesn't matter, I'm going to do it.
Oh, wrestling's everything to me, man. You know, wrestling, it has been my entire life for most of my life. I got into it, like I say, when I was 12, and I've just been obsessed ever since. And the reason I started wrestling myself at 13 was because I just, as soon as I got its claws in me, I couldn't see myself doing anything else. It has quite literally been my whole life.
I've wanted to be a wrestler since I literally started watching wrestling, and I never really thought that it was an option in this country, to be honest. I was always like, oh, I'm going to have to move to America, and then now that it's something that I can say that I get to do for work, like, it means a lot to be able to say that I'm actually doing it as a job.
Yeah, when you're growing up, you hear the same things about wrestling, you know, oh, it's fake and how can you like it? But it's deeper than the sport itself. It's about the storytelling, it's about the atmosphere, it's a real community, and I think that's the main thing about wrestling. I'm a huge football fan, I've got a season ticket at Celtic, I go to the games every week, but a wrestling community is different, and that's what I love about it.
Got the cool things, I've got wife and kids, and I've got a job, and I've got all the grown up stuff, but there's always wrestling. It doesn't matter where it is, I'll find it. Go to a shop, I'll find something wrestling related. Go listen to music, I'll find wrestling related. It's just all consuming, possibly to the point of obsessive.
Outside of this, I go to work, get up, go to the gym, and then I'm here. Every single night. On the weekends, it's dedicated to wrestling on shows, whether that's here or taking it a step further myself and going down south to try and get as much repetition as I can. Wrestling is literally what I want to do for the rest of my life, so the more time I can give to that and make that happen, then I'm absolutely going to do that.
I started training, I was at university doing something I didn't want to do, and that's when I decided, you know what, I want to go and see if there's any way I can chase this. Through wrestling, I've made some of my best friends. I've met my missus through wrestling. It really has changed my life.
I just love wrestling with all my heart and on all its different inclinations. And even when I think like, oh, maybe that's me, I'm done. No, and it's all, you know, the cool thing about wrestling is it's all about you. You know, it's all about you as a person. It's kind of like football.
It's subjective.
Your fandom. It's all about you. So I like a lot of silly wrestling, a lot of different wrestling. It all kind of comes together for me here. So yeah, I still love it.
It's been my life, my whole life. It's been my passion, but for actual getting to do it, it's 13 years I've been doing this. It just means everything. I managed to accomplish everything I set out to do and accomplished 10 times more than I ever thought I could have. So yeah, it's been a big part of my life.